Hello and welcome back to the HeroesHype Amateur Series Beta Finals, the Night 2, where we find out who is going home with our first place prize, as well as our second and third place prizes too, but they're here for first place. I'm Gillyweed, one of your casters, and joining me right here is Anna Prosser-Robinson. Hello, Anna.
Hi Gilly, I'm so excited. This is the first tournament that Eye on the Storm, our show, has ever sponsored, which is really exciting. And it's thanks to you guys for voting us for second place for favorite community show in Heroes of the Storm. So thank you guys for that. And I'm sure these players are going to be thanking you here in a moment as well, as soon as they find themselves in the money in the HeroesHype Amateur Series Beta Finals.
That's right. In our first semifinal match, we had... sorry, my dog is freaking out.
Aww.
We had the Plays versus Kappa Wolves in what I felt was a pretty big upset. The Plays were able to beat them 2-0. And so now we're going to have the next semifinal match, which we're actually already drafting for, as well as our finals match. So this semifinal will be between Goon Squad and Plato Tangos. It is a best of 3. Let's go ahead and hop into the draft.
Let's get right into it, because the players certainly are. And Gilly, I was so sad because guess who the first ban was? It was Kerrigan.
And who followed that? I'm going to stop the dog while you talk for just a second, please.
All right, so here's the deal. Kerrigan and Zagara are my Zerg StarCraft ladies. I love to see them always playing. And on Tomb of the Spider Queen, we have Kerrigan and Zagara being very, very strong lately. Kerrigan because she can kind of pull people into these small spaces and just devastate them in terms of controlling where they stand and dealing damage to them. Zagara because she has a really great mechanic for vision in terms of her creep tumors that she can spread all over the map. Not to mention that she can do some great sieging as well. So not a surprise to see these two being banned, but we usually don't see them necessarily so prioritized as bans except for on this map.
Yes, that is definitely the case. Thank you for filling in. We've got the dog situation sorted out. So now we've got picks going on. Goon Squad going to prioritize that Anubarak, something we've seen very often, and we saw a lot in on Monday as well in those picks in bans too. So they're going to have Anubarak. They're also following up, picking up that Sylvanas and Vala, and that looks very strong. Sylvanas is great on this map. She's great on any map, but great because she has that great push potential with her Black Arrow hero trait. And Vala as well. We've got, with that, it looks like Plato's grabbing Jaina and Kael'thas together, though, and that is a lot of damage for Goon Squad to have to deal with.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think what we're seeing take shape here is that Goon Squad is, so far, in my opinion, really playing to the map. Anubarak here, with being able to burrow, can both get into and get out of these small spaces really, really well in a way that can really devastate and initiate. Sylvanas, of course, being able to siege can split push or do all sorts of things that can combat the web weavers or take focus other places. And then Vala, a very strong damage dealer to round that out. So a very well-rounded map-focused team for Goon Squad. And then Plato drafting two of the strongest damage dealers in the game right now and saying, that's fine, you can do all you want with scurrying around in these small spaces, but if we can out-team fight you, we can still win this game, because there are 2 turn-in points here for gems. That's the map mechanic. You're turning in gems to try to get web weavers to spawn for your team. And a lot of times the team fights will happen around those. If you can keep the opposing team from ever turning in gems, it doesn't matter how great their composition is, Gilly.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. It's going to be up to them to make sure they can keep them alive, and they need to do that with a very good healer, which Brightwing definitely is, and a good frontliner like they've got with the ETC, who's going to be able to keep people off of them. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see more people, somebody else maybe even with a stun, as they come out with their last pick, or even just another damage dealer as well. But if they were able to get somebody with a stun like a Tyrande, then they would be able to stun and then capitalize on that with the crazy amount of damage that Jaina and Kael'thas do, even being able to stun them once again with Kael'thas's gravity lapse. But Goon Squad are actually going to go with a Tyrael and a Rhaegar. So Rhaegar, not somebody we've been seeing a whole lot in terms of supports. I don't even know if we saw him on Monday at all, but they do have the Tyrael and Anubarak. I love Tyrael and Anubarak together. They have such a great ability to engage on another team because of that judgment that Tyrael gets and the burrow charge that Anubarak has. They're just able to just get on top of a team, get on top of a backline, and that is exactly what Plato does not want to happen when they've got the 2 squishy spellcasters with not much of an escape.
Absolutely. But that said, Plato does have their last pick open, and what they've done is something we've seen be very effective in this tournament so far, which is having a tank, having a healer, and having 2 damage dealers, and then having this kind of flex pick where they can react to whatever Goon Squad has done. So now they're looking at these 2 tanks, not super heavy-duty tanks, kind of squishy tanks, but also, like you said, able to do a lot in terms of initiation and doing a fair amount of damage in their tankiness as well. And they're looking at one very strong healer in Rhaegar, but like you said, someone that we haven't seen as much lately. So they're probably thinking, all right, what do we want to make our team do in terms of characterization? Are we going to pick another super damage dealer? Because there are still a few. And are we just going to be super aggressive? Are we going to pick another tank to match this 2 tank meta that we're seeing from Goon Squad? Are we going to have another healer or someone, like you said, that can stun? I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Tassadar here that we could use to shield these 2 squishies and also deal a little bit of damage. And also for Oracle, for Vision, that would be great. So yay! That's always nice when you see what you predict.
Vision is so good. Remember that Rhaegar has the ability for Farsight too, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick that up too. Teams really like to prioritize Vision on this map, like you mentioned before, because there are 2 turn-ins. It's a lot more difficult to constantly keep a vigilant watch over 2 turn-ins as opposed to just the one like in Blackheart's Bay. But really good call on the Tassadar too. Remember, Tassadar also gets Promote now, and Promote has been buffed, so that's going to be really, really awesome to see, hopefully. Also, he can do things like shield structures, which is something that a lot of people don't realize when just starting out in the game. You can use your shield on the structures, and when you've got web weavers pushing in on your structures, that's something that could be super effective. Don't know if we'll see the talents coming out that amplify the shields on structures, but hey, you never know. He even gets like a mule as well, so there's the possibility for that. He has a lot of utility in a team comp, and I think that that's really sweet to see. But one thing I wanted to know, Anna, is that there was a patch that actually came out, I believe today, with a hotfix to Kael'thas. And what it did was change a little bit how his later talents work, specifically the one where Flamestrike will add Living Bomb to heroes, and that is if they already have Living Bomb on them, it won't apply it. So it changes a lot about how you are going to be using him. You have to be thinking about, okay, I've got to make sure that I apply Living Bomb with Flamestrike first, and then like throw it on from there, because it was dealing a ton of damage. His damage was out of control at 16.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why we've seen him be so consistently picked. That's kind of the news, though, usually with a new hero, for 2 reasons. First, because people just don't know how to deal with a new hero yet. And then second, because they tend to come out strong until Blizzard figures out if they may have stacked things a little bit in one corner. So good to see a hotfix. We'll see if that comes into play today in these games, Gilly.
Yes, we'll have to. And another thing I want to point out here for Goon Squad is looking at these heroes, they have the potential for 5 Blood for Bloods. So although we don't see Rhaegar very often, there's a reason he's the only support who gets that. And that could be very scary for Plato at 16, especially because you throw 5 Blood for Bloods on somebody, even an ETC, and he is going to get wrecked. That's going to be interesting, but this is a map that favors early game. It's short because it's so small. You can go into a later game for sure because you kind of can stall out with the gems later on, but if you get a really good push and a really good advantage in the early game, it's something that you can capitalize and kind of make a game pretty short. So to wait for something at 16 may or may not work out for them.
Absolutely. And guys, there's a short little delay. You know, we are people. We all have human things that happen to us. Apparently one player has had their sister throw up on their desk. So
that happens to all of us.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us, and we wish her a speedy recovery and get well wishes. So as soon as we hope you can clean the vomit out from between your keys. And Goat is chiming in that he would play in the puke, and that is true hardcore dedication. So we appreciate that from you, Goat. But I'm sorry. That's just a really great story. But anyway, we're talking about this game. I want to hear more, Gilly, from you, because I know that you've played a lot of Tyrael and you're really familiar with him. You were talking about how you like Anub'arak and Tyrael together, which is kind of relatively new, that we're seeing so much Anub'arak especially. So tell me a little bit about that synergy and what makes you excited to see that.
So the idea is that while neither is really known for being a super tanky tank, I'm going to actually switch back to our cams since this might be a little bit of a wait, puke related or otherwise. So the idea is while neither of them by themselves are super tanky, I mean, you can definitely build them to be tankier, but they're not going to measure up to like an ETC or Muradin buff. They both do a lot of damage and are still tanky enough. You know, like Tyrael has those shields. He can actually shield the whole team, and it gives a little bit of self-healing as well. Nubarak has shields as well, but they both deal quite a bit of damage for the warrior class. And so to be able to have them together, it kind of fits the need of that one tank. You even have two people who are being able to zone and kind of like keep people off of your squishies who are doing a lot of the damage. But what I mentioned before is that both have the ability to really engage in on an enemy between Judgment from Tyrael at 10, if that's what he chooses, as well as the Anubarak being able to burrow in. They're really able to get into the back line, and it becomes very difficult because then all of a sudden they're on top of your squishy damage dealers and they're having to move away, or you're having to bring your tank back, and it just like causes for you to like press the panic button.
Do you think in this game, you mentioned that Tyrael has Judgment if he should choose to take it. Do you think that we will see Judgment, or do you think there would be a place for Sanctification there as well?
Man, I always hope for Sanctification, and we've even seen Anubarak and Tyrael go into the Sanctification here at HeroesHype by Team Happy Birthday, but it's almost always Judgment. I think it's just really cool because I've seen it work out so many times where you've got Anubarak who goes in, and then everyone's like, target Anubarak, and then all of a sudden it's like, why isn't Anubarak dying? And it's like, oh, because he's invulnerable, because Tyrael's sitting there praying. And so then I think that works really well, though, when you have an Uther, because you can Divine Shield the Tyrael, and then he's also invulnerable, so then the whole team's invulnerable for 3 seconds.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome and also scary. So I think that we'll most likely see the Judgment because we don't see an Uther here. And we would maybe be more apt to see it should they have an Uther. But it looks like we're throwing out the GLHF all around. Should be starting very soon. And there it is. There's the countdown.
I'm excited to get into this first game. Guys, as a brief recap, also, you can put exclamation bracket into the chat and you can find out what has happened so far. Gilly did mention that we have had a few games before. Be sure to check those out. They should, I believe, be on YouTube. If not now, then they will soon. Certainly they're in our past broadcasts as well. But we are in a semifinal match. This will determine who will advance to the finals, and then we will play a best of 5 for those finals. So this will be a best of 3, and then we will have a best of 5, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Gilly?
Heck yes! The winner of that best of 5 in the finals will get $150 to split amongst the players. Second place will get $100, and third place will get $50. So there will be a third and fourth place match played, but it probably will not be played on stream due to time constraints. We've got teams from all over in Eastern Time and Pacific Time, so in order to make it so that we can accommodate all the teams, we have to go a little bit later into the Eastern Time zone, so we don't want to make them having to play, you know, at like 2 a.m. when they may have to work in the morning. So we are loading in on Tomb of the Spider Queen, first game of the day, best of 3. We've got Goon Squad versus Pool Plato, and I think Pool Plato will be on the blue side. And if you would like to do the honors, Anna, you can do so.
Sure thing. All right, so Pool Plato will be made up by Apollo playing Jaina, Fabs playing Brightwing, King Plato on Kael'thas, Charm playing ETC, and Lyricals will take Tassadar.
And over in the red, we have the Goon Squad with Yoda playing Tyrael, Hosty on Sylvanas, Get Up playing Rhaegar, Boss Floss playing Anubarak, and Goat on the Vala.
Goat. I love that name.
Me too.
I think he should always ride Wonder Billy with that name. I don't know why we see him on a magic carpet right now. But
why would you ever not ride that Billy Goat? I don't know, but look where the Goon Squad is going already, trying to maybe make something happen, but their opponent's Pool Plato also setting up somewhere. And remember, there's Tassadar. He can always hit Oracle and be able to see what's going on. And for now, at least, no ganks yet.
Yeah, and guys, if you're not familiar with this map, this is the newest map on Heroes of the Storm. It's a very small map with very tight places to fight. There are 2 turn-in points for gems, which you will collect by killing these little spider gem minions here. If you collect them and turn them in and you get 50 of them, then web weavers will spawn in all 3 lanes and they will push against your opponent. You can drop those gems if you die, but the opposing team cannot steal them. They just might go away and you can't pick them up. So we will see a lot of gem denying. We will see a lot of people who hold a lot of gems and therefore get scared of dying. It turns into some great fun. We already see people looking for control of these turn-in points. We see the top turn-in being kind of a priority a little bit here for Pool Plato. And they're getting a little bit of a push going here in the mid lane, Gilly.
Yeah, they're actually doing something we see a lot on Dragonshire, which is taking a 4-man squad between mid and bot, and it looks like they're really going after Hosty Chong, who's going to push him back, but a good Banshee will enable him to get away. Meanwhile, Goat's doing a lot of damage on Fabs, but Fabs might actually die. Does get an impale from Boss Boss, but they're a little bit hesitant to go all the way in there. And for now, no one quite yet has died. I did want to point out that along with Tassadar, they also picked up the scouting drone on Brightwing at level 1. So they are really prioritizing having vision over those turn-in points.
Yeah, very interesting. We don't see as much in terms of vision for the Goon squad. How do you think they're going to compensate for that?
Well, they are a little bit tankier, and so that will help, but not in the early game. Charm is going to push Boss Boss back in very, very low. Will they be able to pick him up? There will be the kill on him, and that will be first blood for Pool Plato. I do believe Rhaegar could pick up Farsight. I think that one's at level 4. I'm kind of drawing a blank on it right now, but that's another possibility. It's kind of like a clairvoyance as well. We'll have to see. But level 4 talent's actually coming in for Pool Plato right now, and very quickly followed. Oh no, Rhaegar's gonna go down though, and that's a bunch of gems he dropped.
Absolutely, and like we said, those gems cannot be picked up by the opposing team, but they can be picked up by your teammates. So we see the teammates of Rhaegar scrambling to pick up what he has dropped, not let his purse be stolen. Fabs is going to turn in a little bit, so we do have 9 gems turned in so far for Pool Plato, but that is not a significant amount in terms of the 50 that need to be turned in before you see Web Weavers.
Very true. We've got a long ways to go before we've got some Web Weavers here, but looking a little bit more at the talents, let's see what these heroes are trying to do to pick up more. We actually have the Beetle build from Anubarak, so that it does help a lot with pushing lanes, having lots of those beetles who are a little bit stronger. And then Tyrael did go with his smite talents as well, so also focusing on damage. Like I said before, because they have 2 tanks, they don't really have to focus on being uber tanky. They can focus on a little bit more on their damage instead.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're taking 2 tanks and kind of balancing out the fact that both of those tanks are not quite as tanky by making them a little bit assassin-y and then having 2 of them.
Man, Goat going way down there, and Hosty looks like he might be next. Ooh. Yep, they will get a kill on Sylvanas as well, who had a ton of gems. And this is what I was worried about a little bit. They don't really have vision over turn-in, so they were trying to turn in, and Pool Plato did have vision. We were able to come right in and take them out, and that's a huge number of gems now. They still have quite a few, but they're having a lot. Oh no, I'm sorry, wrong side. They still have 12, but they're really having a hard time turning them in. 22, math, it's fine.
We're not math doers, Gilly. We are casters. And you know, it's really, like you said, the vision is going to be a huge issue here because there are so many areas that the Fog of War covers and so many smoke vents that you can see all over this map that if you're having to face check those all the time, it is going to be a lot more dangerous. So I don't know if maybe Goon Squad is looking toward the late game to deal with that, but right now we're seeing it already take effect where Pool Plato has been able to turn in 50 gems and the Web Weavers will now spawn in all 3 lanes. In the mid lane, that Web Weaver is going to spawn pretty close to the opponent's gate. The Web Weavers do spawn exactly where the minion waves have been pushed to, so Pool Plato has done a great job of keeping those lanes pushed in anticipation of the arrival of those lady spiders.
Exactly right, and with the early Web Weavers, most of the time you'll just see team members trying to push in and take as many towers as possible to get a good experience lane that you can then carry through to the late game. So most likely we won't see them doing any sort of a crazy push into a fort, but they're already doing a really good job. They've got one tower and the gate down in mid, and there's still a pretty good web weaver they're pushing as Plato are going to rotate up and start taking towers up on top. They've got one down. There will be the second one, and as you can see, they are nearly a full level ahead with this, which is exactly where they want to be as both teams are starting to get close to those level 10 talents.
Yes, what that means to them is they're going to be looking for their level 10 talents fairly soon here, and as soon as they do, they're going to be looking for an engagement, because if they can keep that momentum going, if they can use their heroic abilities to win a team fight here, that will continue to push them further and further ahead in experience. It will continue to make them have control over these turn-in points, and that's going to be a great position to be in moving into the mid and then late game.
That's exactly right. Looking at the talents as we get close to the heroics, Brightwing did pick up Cleanse instead of the Soothing Mist, so really wanting to make sure that she can keep people from getting stun locked for too long. And remember, they're up against a Tyrael and a Nubarak. I talked about the Judgment and the Burrow and all of the stuns that a Nubarak can throw out. So that's going to be really important. Brightwing can throw Cleanse on exactly who Tyrael would Judgment, and that's going to save the day. We've seen Tassadar already making a great work with that promote as he's been constantly pushing down lots of lanes. Oh, there is the heroic ability. Volo goes down so fast as the water elemental spawns, and they're still having so much trouble trying to get any turn-ins. Still only 19 gems so far turned in for Goon Squad.
And Boss Floss is carrying 26 at this point. So you can see in the player's psychology that sometimes that plays a big part in how teams will choose to engage. Boss Floss holding 26 and Get Up holding 22. They really do not want to die right now because they're holding enough gems to get themselves some web weavers.
Man, I'm really interested in some of these heroic abilities. We've got Water Elemental, like I mentioned before, but also the Emerald Wind from Brightwing. So looking for more of a disengage and a displacement than having the heals and the positioning from Blink Heal. Also Pyroblast and Mosh Pit. So they're going for a wombo here. They're going to try to get a Mosh Pit and then Pyroblast on top to hopefully kill a whole bunch of people with an Archon who can also throw a ton of damage. But here is an engagement, or not. There's a Pyroblast, though, that's going to be go on Hosty, but not going to do too much damage. They're going to be able to heal her up.
Yeah, but we can see that Pool Plato is doing a masterful job with the amount of vision they have of knowing when Goon Squad is trying to turn in and harassing them while they do. Right there we saw Get Up with 28 gems trying to engage, or trying to turn in and not being able to as Pool Plato does engage. We see a huge stun on Fab with that web blast, but able to get out. And it looks like maybe we will see a turn in here from Goon Squad. Will they be able to do it before they get interrupted? They will, and there will be Web Weavers now spawning for Goon Squad, which is the break they need. Now, Web Weavers can be offensive or defensive. In this case, in some of the lanes, this is going to be a defensive Web Weaver. They're going to be trying to push out the amount of pushing that has been happening in their lanes already.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're already going down to bot and trying to push that lane out, so the Web Weavers will be going in. And they did have their heroics for that. I got kind of worried about the engagement there from Goon Squad because they used like all of their heroics and didn't take anyone out, but they at least did have the amount of time needed to be able to get a turn in there, which is at least one thing going in their favor. They're trying to push down these lanes, help the Web Weavers wherever they can. It looks like the tanks are going to separate and go to the different lanes, while on bottom, everyone else is going to help the bottom Web Weaver. And it might be that top gets the most work done as, like I mentioned before, first Web Weavers, you're really just trying to pick up some towers, and at this point, they're trying to catch back up in experience.
Yeah, Gilly, on this map, as opposed to something like Cursed Hollow, Sky Temple, Dragonshire, where we see mobility be a huge concern, this map is so small that we're seeing a lot of these heroes not prioritize mobility. Would you say that's the case, or do you think that there is any concern about heroes being able to get somewhere?
Well, we do have... I think part of that is being able to clear lanes quickly so that you can constantly just clear lanes, pick up gems really fast, and then rotate to wherever your opponents aren't. So in the case of like Vala going multi-shot build, they've got that ability as well as the unstable poison from Sylvanas. Like Goon Squad are going to be able to take out mobs really quickly, even taking out this top fort really fast, and they got another turn in. So that's actually really good on the on the side of Goon Squad, but they need to be really careful here because here comes an engagement. Charm's trying to set something up, and Yoda is going to Judgment in on Jaina, but doesn't have much to follow up on it because he was really far in front, as is a Nubrak now, just trying to get away. Web Blast went down, but unfortunately it's going to be a Nubrak who's going to die, and there is the mosh pit. Volo goes down from it. Get Up is now way out of position, just trying to get away. Will be the next one to drop, and 3 heroes fall on the side of Goon Squad, and everyone is still up for Pool Plato.
Yeah, and it looks like we may lose Yoda as well, actually being able to get out of the way, so very well done there. But what we're seeing is a difference in sustainability here between these two teams. Gilly, why do you think we're seeing Goon Squad not being able to stand up in this team fight? Is it just because we have these 2 strong damage dealers on the side of Pool Plato?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that it was probably something to do with damage, although Sylvanas and Vala are doing pretty good damage. We still do have Tassadar, who's able to arc on in and do quite a bit of damage on their team. Brightwing does pretty good damage for a healer as well as ETC, so I think it's a bit of damage. Also, that positioning was not really favoring them. Remember, they also didn't have their level 13 talents. That's a huge deal. Like Jaina, they judgmented it on Jaina, and their idea is an elimination. They're going to go straight in on somebody like they're doing on King Plato right now, and this time they do it. So that's exactly what they needed. Before, they tried to do that on Jaina and weren't able to do so. They were able to keep her alive using shields from the Tassadar. So that's exactly what they were wanting. They were able to do that, and with that, they picked up their 13 talents.
We do have blue web weavers spawning, though. They are going to be in lanes to combat the counter push that we saw coming out of Goon Squad. Web weaver in the bottom lane is already right up here against the wall. We do see the mid one spawning more mid lane, and then in the top, the web weaver is actually defensive. So we're seeing a bit of evening out in terms of map presence here, although we do see 1 level ahead from Pool Plato.
Yeah, Pool Plato's still keeping that bit of an experience lead, but it's not too bad in terms of, you know, sometimes on this map it can get really far ahead, but remember the tanks are up in top, and Charm was trying to get an engagement there. Wasn't quite able to do so though, and looks like all the web weavers will be down.
Yeah, interesting. What do you think we're going to see changing in terms of momentum as we move forward in this game? We saw a dominant opening from Pool Plato, but Goon Squad is starting to assert themselves, not being as afraid of engagements here. They're actually turning after Charm tried to engage, and they want that engagement just as well.
And well, there is the judgment. Let's see if they're able to take out Kael'thas from it. So far, no, they're not able to do so, although King Plato is very low, and there they do. They pick up King Plato as well as Apollo. So now Jaina and Kael'thas are down, and what does that mean? ETC is down as well because they were able to focus on him at the same time. That is what their comp is designed to do, and as long as they can do it, they're going to be very, very successful once they get one person down. They've even trying to get Lyricals, but that Tassadar is very hard to take out once he picks up that Prescience at level 13. So with that, they've got 4 members down on their opponent's side. They're going to be able to pick up this fort. I'm betting we're going to see them rotate somewhere, either the bot fort. Looks like it will be the boss, and this could be risky for them, but they are a little bit closer to 16 now.
They also may feel a little bit more confident with this 2-tank composition. They do have a really, really strong healer who can kind of bring someone back from the dead. So we do see Pool Plato coming up now. They are heading toward the boss, but even if they engage, we may be able to see Goon Squad defending themselves. Now, they did grab the boss. They are going to be able to exit completely before getting engaged on. That was good timing, Gilly.
Yeah, they didn't really want to get new engagement. A lot of them were low on mana. They still had Wailing Arrow down, which is kind of key to their composition, though there were a couple of heroics down on their opponents as well. And there, look at it. So beautiful. For blood. Sylvanas choosing to take Cold Embrace. Can't blame her for that, as that does make enemies vulnerable, and vulnerability is always very awesome. So Goon Squad, because they weren't going to push with the boss, they're instead going to choose to push opposite lane where they know all their opponents are. So we'll see them go and pick up these giants. Just going to try to keep lanes pushed wherever their opponents are so that they might be able to eventually get a turn in once they have the gems.
Yeah, and it looks like Pool Plato being able to dispatch the boss fairly easily. They're now going to go for their bruisers, trying to keep some pressure on their side of the map as well. But the siege giants that you just mentioned down here in the bottom, those are the only shared mercenary camp, if you will. So definitely an advantage for Goon Squad to have taken them. It looks like people are heading down toward the bottom lane, and we may see an engagement here over this keep.
Yeah, we've got both teams on equal footing in terms of talents. I'm really excited to see 4 blood for bloods being dropped on somebody. I'm wondering if they'll just try to burn somebody out once the person, whoever they judgment on, so that way they don't have to worry about their squishies trying to come in and try to follow up. upon whoever they have to judgment in, because sometimes it is very far in the back line, like we've seen a couple of times. But it could also just decide to turn around and use them all on the tank. It's often something that we see. But now we've got red web weavers spawning, Anna.
And we see all 5 members of Pool Plato standing here in the mid lane. So they are waiting for something, and that is to make sure that they defend this wall against that web weaver. They've got other web weavers pushing in lanes, but none of them are so directly endangering one of their structures yet. So a good pick there. A lot of defending against web weavers is making sure to rotate in the right order. Now they're going to pay attention to this top lane, where we do see Goon Squad pushing alongside the web weaver. Charm will look for an engage, but there's nothing to follow it up, so he will retreat behind the wall. There is a web blast that goes down. Gilly, who are we going to see take this fight?
Their ETC was burned down instantly. They actually used a judgment on him, and that was completely fine because all the blood for bloods went straight down there. Now Fabs, Lyricals, and King Plato are just trying to get away, sit in their base, but that means that this keep will go down. This keep was already softened up. The towers were basically dead in front of it because of that earlier boss, so they really did a great job of setting up a place that was going to be vulnerable, and then just putting their finger on the bruise, as you might say, as they are going to back up here. They are getting pretty low. They know that in 10 seconds ETC will be spawning with a mosh pit, which could be dangerous. So they're going to back up here and just continue to press some lanes, grab Merc camps, and heal up, get ready for the next engagement.
And we just were talking about the rhythm of defending against web weavers. What has happened here is that web weaver in the bottom lane, even though it wasn't much of a threat to begin with, turned out to be a threat as it was ignored and pushed through the lane. It did take out one tower and the wall, almost taking out the second tower. So now looking at the base of Pool Plato Some Tangos, they're feeling very exposed.
Yeah, it's often the one that doesn't get, like the one that is least pushed, that will get the most damage done, or at least a significant amount, like you said, because it's the one that's last defended, and they push faster than you think. You're like, oh, it's fine, it's down halfway, it'll never get up to our keep in time. And then all of a sudden you've got both towers down. But once again, it looks like Boss is looking for engagement here. They're trying to get Apollo, but instead they might just grab Charm. But that is a great mosh pit that instantly gets silenced. And did you see how fast he got burned down? Blood for bloods, man, so much. So fast. But Vala is down too. That's a significant amount of damage for the Goon Squad. They're trying to get Jaina here, but that's a ton of shields on her, and they're now just focusing on King Plato instead. They will be able to get him, but now Tyrael is down. Boss is very, very low. Get up, trying to keep him alive, and it looks like they're going to have to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, so not getting the engagement they wanted there, that is going to give some breathing room to Pool Plato Some Tangos. They're going to have to clean up all of their lanes, though. So when I say breathing room, I just mean not dead, as that Pool Plato, or excuse me, that Goon Squad is actually going to be able to go grab these Siege Giants in the bottom lane again. So pressure is not going to let up for Pool Plato. They're going to have to look for an advantage, as now Goon Squad has level 20 talent. So things are looking very grim for them, both in terms of map pressure and in terms of team fighting.
Yeah, it looks like Sylvanas and Vala did pick up Bolt of the Storm with those level 20 talents, so that's definitely going to help them if they get into a position like they were last time where Vala was getting hit on a lot. Also, Angel of Justice for Tyrael, so that's going to help them be able to set up those engagements a little bit easier now. Nubrak picked up the rewind, of course, and then Storm Shield for Rhaegar. I actually wanted to point out that Rhaegar's build is very healing focused, with picking up that Earth Shield at level 7 and then also getting Healing Surge at 13. So a lot more healing focused, as looks like his team is going up to try to take on this boss.
Which is a great idea, because they know Pool Plato does not want to engage with them right now, having those level 20 talents. So Pool Plato instead is going to focus on other advantages they can take, taking out the Siege Giants that are pushing on their bottom lane and grabbing their bruisers. They kind of have to let Goon Squad take that boss right now, but they're also going to have to defend it. So still, Goon Squad is calling the shots in terms of what is going to happen on the map. They have, a huge stun on Jaina. She is also silent. She's trying to get away, but will go down. Charm is trying to be in the front line, but will go down as well. Lyricals and Apollo running for the core will get web blasted. Apollo and Fabs are the only ones alive right now. Poor web blasted. Who was in there? Lyricals. Yes, will be too far behind to do anything. And now we have a boss and all 5 members of Goon Squad wailing on this core, and I don't think there's anything that Pool Plato can do about it.
No, you know, that decision to go for the boss there was so perfect for the Goon squad because they knew that lane was already wide open all the way to core. They knew that they had 20 and their opponents did not. And so either their opponents were going to have to engage into them to stop them at the boss so that they weren't able to pick it up and they'd have to engage in without those level 20 Storm Talons, or they were going to have to try to defend a boss and 5 healthy members of the Goon squad on their core, which, trust me guys, is very difficult. That's a very tough thing to be able to do.
Absolutely. So we saw actually an advantage in team fighting on behalf of Goon Squad that I guess I didn't expect. Did you, Gilly?
Well, I did say that they had a lot of engage potential and they were able to really go and catch somebody. Like they were in the early game, they were going after Kilthos and Jaina. They sort of started to switch once they had all those blood for bloods to even ETC, but they were able to really engage in and start an engagement always on their terms. And it's always really beneficial to be able to say like, we're going to engage now, and instead of have to kind of react to how they're engaging in on you. So a couple of times we saw that they didn't really have the follow-up quite ready, but I think they were just like warming up, getting the feel, and once they started really knowing exactly who to focus, exactly when they were going to engage, they really started to pull ahead there, especially around the level 13 point.
Yeah, and that kind of coordination really requires a lot of communication and very careful communication. So really cool to see them pulling that off here in the HeroesHype Amateur Series. As we know, these are teams that are looking to prove themselves, looking to get some real tournament experience, and seeing a team band together and work as a unit like that is really, really cool. And what that ended up doing is putting Plato on the defensive to the point where they couldn't coordinate that way because they just had to react to whatever Goon Squad was doing. And that's always a really good position to be in. So very well done by Goon Squad. I'm excited to see what they'll do in Game 2.
Yeah, I am as well. I think that we might see a steal on a new Barak. Everyone wants the new Barak. We'll have to see. Maybe Plato is not as comfortable with him, but we will take a short break while we set up that next game, and when we come back, Game 2 in this best of 3 semifinals. See you soon.